Say hi, Mom.
Hello.
Okay. We're going to start tonight about Italy. First of all, where's your dad and Mom from? Where in Italy?
Mom and Dad were from a small town in Italy called Cariati. It was in Provincia Cosenza, southern Italy, near the Ionian Sea. A small town, not much employment there, which is the reason Grandpa decided to immigrate to Iowa.
Well, what do they do there? Do they grow olives?
Olives, little farming,
Fish?
not much industry, fishing. Actually, their little town was somewhat of a resort town because it had a nice shore, which I doubt Grandma ever saw.
Mm. Did they make wine?
They made some wine, yes. They had olives.
David. So what?
You're funny. Grandma's on TV and you're making fun of me. Cheetah. Hey, look at me.
Okay, and what did your dad do for a living?
My dad was a tailor, and he heard about a job in Des Moines, Iowa, and was offered a position by Gus Manolis, who was a Greek who already owned a tailor shop in Des Moines. And somehow Grandpa heard about it and was asked to come and join him. He and Mr. Gambardella came together. They were from the same town, so Dolores and I are good friends because of it.
And what year was that?
Had to be 1926.
So, did your dad serve in World War One?
Yes, he was in the army in Italy.
For the Italian army.
That's
so
right.
He got beat.
He got beat. That's right.
He was a lover, not a fighter.
So that's right. Grandpa was a hunter besides.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he fought in the war. Did he ever tell you about the war?
No, he didn't talk about it.
Not much to talk about.
No.
So in 1926, Uncle Charlie decided to come to America. With your dad and Uncle Charlie decided to come to America.
Well, my dad came to America first. He had a house, and then he sent money to my mother.
But that was in 26?
Had to be 27 or 28.
Okay. So
And Grandma came with Uncle Charlie.
Well, did Grandpa come to America on a big boat?
Yes, no love boat, just a boat in steerage.
And then where did he go to Des Moines?
He went straight to Des Moines from New York, landed at Ellis Island. They asked him his name, and when he had to spell it, he was very offended because, of course, in Italy they don't spell, and everything's written phonetically and pronounced phonetically. And he said, when he mentioned the name Graziano, he assumed the man would know how to write it, and he didn't, and he thought he was a dummy. So Grandpa went on to Des Moines, got a house, sent money to Grandma.
But how did he know? What was the connection to Des Moines? How did he know? Who told him there was a job there?
Well, had to be someone in the town of Cariati or somebody that was in Des Moines.
Because there's a lot of Italians in Des Moines.
There were 10,000 there when I was living there.
Okay, so then he sent money.
Most of your Italians from Des Moines came from southern Italy, from Calabria, south of Naples.
But then how long did your mom and Uncle Charlie stay in Cariati?
They were there maybe 6 months. And they got on the boat. My mother said it was the worst crossing. Awful, just awful. And then remember, she had to go through Ellis Island, not knowing the language.
Did she talk about the boat at all?
She said the boat was sickening because everybody was in steerage. There was no air. The food was bad. Nobody felt like eating anyway.
Did she get sick?
Everybody got sick. Everybody got sick. Uncle Charlie was 7 at the time. when they landed in New York at Ellis Island, I don't know how she got through all those pens, not knowing the language, and still she had a long way to go. No fast jet then either. They had to go by train.
So how did she know where to go, how to pick up a train? What happened?
Well, they knew her destination. She had a tag saying where
Des
she
Moines,
was
Iowa.
going. Because the first question they asked them is, did somebody sponsor you? And that's how
So she probably
people
never.
stayed when they had a place to go. If they had no place to go, many times they just sent them back. If they had any kind of eye problems, those were the first people sent back.
But did she, when she was in Ellis Island, she probably never saw the Statue of Liberty because she was in the hull of the ship.
Well, they did when they got off. I think they saw it briefly.
Did she remember? Did she remember
But
the Statue of Liberty?
the only thing Uncle Charlie remembers, two things he remembers about Ellis Island. Grandma bought him a 5-cent Hershey bar. He'd never seen chocolate like that. And he saw a man eating a banana with the peeling on it. He didn't know that you were supposed to peel it, but he thought it was the greatest thing he'd ever tasted, regardless.
Well, at 10 years old, my folks sent my dad to this country to earn enough money. In those days, they thought it was a land of gold,
It
so that
still
he could
is.
bring the rest of the family over.
That's what everybody did.
So they put tags on him.
Sure, everybody had a
He
tag.
came over by himself, 10 years old, put tags all over him, and they,
Did you know that, Lou?
My dad was 14 when he came over, and he was probably a lot younger than his dad, so. My dad was 14
They were brothers.
when he came over. He was born 1900. Your dad had to be born
1894.
But what did the tag say?
Tag said Iowa.
See, he came down the gangplank,
Over, I think
and he
your
saw, he
dad
had never seen a black man.
came over with
He said,
him.
this guy was probably maybe about 5'10", and my dad was kind of short. He said he saw this black guy, he said, terrified him. He said he ran for about 3 blocks.
You thought it was the devil?
He thought it was a devil.
What did he have?
They had never seen black
Diablo or
people.
something say?
Yeah.
What, but the tags were how to get to where they were going? There were instructions?
But on Ellis Island, they said, what's your name?
Iowa. They put Iowa on here if you were going to Iowa.
And my dad went to West Virginia.
He would just shove it around like a piece of baggage. That's all he was, a piece of baggage.
It cost $35 to bring my dad's uncle brought him across to come work in the coal mines of West Virginia to make a fortune. And my dad said he was down with the animals. They didn't have refrigeration. They brought live animals. They slaughtered them as they went across. And he was down there with the animals in steerage. It cost $35.
So then Grandma made the trip to Iowa on the train with Uncle Charlie, and he asked for water, and she said there was no water on the train. He had to wait till he got to Iowa to have a drink. Grandpa met them, so that was pretty gutsy.
So that was like 1927,
28 probably.
28, and that was the gay 20s.
Gay 20s. But remember, when I was born was the crash. 1929 was not a fun year.
Right.
At least Grandpa had a job and was working. Not many people were.
Well,
There were
so
soup lines.
Who did they leave behind in Italy? Their
They left
brothers and
sisters, brothers, no parents, just brothers, sisters, cousins, that's all.
Right.
Grandparents were gone, and no one else came over except my mother, father, and Uncle Charlie.
And none of them really knew English very well.
They knew no English,
Right.
but when Grandma was in America, not even a year, she went to school and she became an American citizen. She was very proud. She had her little notebook and she studied all about the government. She thought it was great. And there were about 6 or 7 women on the street. Sitz was one of them. Clement's mother was another. And they all went to school together. There were about 6 little Italian ladies, and they were so proud to get that diploma.
Say hi, Grandma.
Hi, you
Hi, Grandma.
Hi, you puncher.
Hi, you puncher. You're funny. Okay, so on February 2nd, 1929, you were born.
That's correct.
Where were you born?
Mercy Hospital.
Where's that, Des Moines?
Yes, in Des Moines.
So your mom got there.
Mom got there okay.
She spent a year in Des Moines and had a baby.
That's about right.
And where did you guys live?
We lived at 1018 5th Street. The neighborhood was not an Italian neighborhood. We had 3 Italian families on the street, the DeMarcos, the Scorpinitis, and the Grazianos. So of course the 3 families were very, very close. All of our get-togethers and family occasions were held with them. They became our family since aunts and uncles didn't come.
And
Grandma lived upstairs from Mrs. Scorpiniti, and DeMarcos were next door to her before we got our home.
So what was the house like? Was it a duplex?
It was an up and down. It
So there was
a
one family
townhouse.
above and one below.
Right, like a townhouse.
So you had the bottom half,
We had the top,
top half.
and Mrs. Scorpiniti was downstairs.
Is this,
Then we moved to another house just a few doors from them, our own house. It's tough when we're-
so this was Clement's parents,
That's right, who owned the house
right?
until we got our own house.
Grandma, what was Cherie like when she was a little girl?
What she, a little girl?
When Cherie was a little girl.
She's a real nice girl. And see, I come on one in here, honey. I got married 31st January. And she born on 2nd February. And when I came in this country, I don't come right away, but 6 months or so I came in this country. And I find little, just how many time I changed the diapers and everything, just baby really used to live close to over there. And she's a really nice young girl. She can do a lot of things. Oh, and I feel so sorry. Her mother is just an angel. It's so nice, Cherie's mother.
Where's 5th Street? What?
Well, it would be Midtown in Des Moines,
Okay.
not too far from downtown, because Grandma used to take the bus in the morning before everyone got up and go to Mass, come back before we were up.
Okay. Do you remember living in that house? And
Absolutely.
how long did you live there?
We lived there until I was in college.
Oh, so that was your home,
That
really?
was my home.
So you really never lived anywhere else?
Well, yes, we lived on 42nd Street, but Grandma only lived there a couple of years.
Cherie and Clement scared me. They were so wild and were so fast. If you got on a swing with them, they'd swing so high you were afraid you're going to fall off. So I kind of stayed away from Cherie for a while.
Well, we were facing 5th Street. That would be to the north. To the north. That would be to the north. Cherie lived on the same street. There was Mrs. Mowers. There was the duplex. Then there was the one next to you that gave you the
Mrs. Miller.
Mrs. Miller, and then your house.
And what was, did Uncle Charlie ever play with you guys, or was he too old?
He never played with us as per se. He was 10 years older than we were.
Yeah.
But he was kind of my hero in the sense that I looked up to him. I had him christen me when I was, what do they call it?
Confirmation.
Confirmation. He was my sponsor. I always admired and looked up to him. I remember that he worked for the pharmacy. What was it? King's Pharmacy.
I said
And
that
they
in
used
my
to bring
memoirs.
home the donuts and the rolls and stuff like that. And we all went over to Cherie's house and ate the God, we used to dunk those donuts. It was heaven. It was absolutely wonderful.
Okay, Mom. What's the first memory you have of Uncle Charlie? How old were you?
Oh, I think I was about 4, maybe. I can remember that. He would always take me places.
So he was probably about 13,
Yes.
because he was 9 years
And he
older.
did all my mother's errands. Would go down to a place to get cracked eggs because they were so much cheaper. Of course, everybody in the neighborhood did that.
And what was it like for Uncle Charlie to go to school? Because he didn't know English very
He
well.
didn't know English, and the kids made fun of him. One of the girls that lived next door to Mrs. Scorpaniti took him under her wing, and she practically beat up anybody that made fun of him. She practically taught him English.
What grade did he start?
They put him in second grade when he came, and then they advanced him to third because he was a little advanced for second.
Well, how old was he when they put him in second?
Well, I mean, he was 7 when he came over, so
Okay.
it would have to be around that time.
Okay.
And it was Maxine Hyatt that really came to his aid, taught him English, taught him the words not to say. And at that time, they didn't make a deal out of a child that spoke another language. Today, they make a lesson of it, but then they made fun of him.
So what happened with, what's this big story of where he got a present from his dad?
Grandpa finally relented one Christmas, well, it was after Christmas, and bought him a sled. And Uncle Charlie took it out on the steps in the summertime.
Well, when's his birthday?
His birthday is in June.
Oh.
He got him a sled in June, and he took it out on the steps and broke both his front teeth. And Uncle and Grandpa
Cholta.
took the sled and broke it up and burned it. That was the end of that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories. What happened with Chad? Do you remember anything else before he went to the army? Anything like?
Not particularly. He was just a nice, good brother, always careful of me. I do remember when he'd gone to the army, every night I'd go upstairs and Grandpa would be sewing because he'd bring home work to do from the tailor shop.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd say, get your pencil and paper, we'll write to Kata. We called him Kata, which is short for Cataldo in Italian. And Grandpa always started the letters the same way. Dear Kata, we received your letter today. We received your letter today. And of course he'd say, did you get that? And I'd always say, yes, I got that. Actually, and then he would tell Uncle Charlie things that went on that week.
I bet you wish you had some of those letters.
I do, yes I do. One time Uncle Charlie, while he was in the army, he was on a train and he went into the restroom and there was Bing Crosby. And he started chatting with Bing Crosby. And he said, would you write a little note to my sister? And at the time I was crazy about Frank Sinatra. And when he gave me that lovely little note from Bing Crosby, I tore it up because I liked Frank Sinatra.
You should have kept it.
I should have kept it.
Well, Uncle Charlie was a medical corps.
He was in the medical corps. Now they'd probably call it a MASH unit.
So he helped bandage people up so they could get transported to the hospital.
That's right. They kind of a pick-up and delivery type thing.
Well, he was on the front lines, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was he went everywhere but Italy. It's funny. In fact, he almost married a girl from Luxembourg.
But where did he spend? I mean, was he
Belgium.
in North Africa?
He was in England a long time. England, Belgium, Luxembourg, France.
Was he part of D-Day?
No, not quite. No, I don't
He came in after that.
Yes. Yes.
But he helped liberate some of the camps.
Yes, and sorry I didn't keep some of those pictures because he showed them to me. They were pretty gross.
What did he say?
He said it was just horrendous.
Was that in Poland or Germany?
It was in Germany. And he said one time they captured a German general, and he was in their unit. He said he was the toughest hombre he'd ever run into. He said, but the guy never smiled, and he could have shot us dead
Did Chaz write to you guys?
all the time. Yeah.
Do you remember?
He really did.
Do you remember?
I have
getting
to
his
tell you
letters?
one little funny incident. Before he left for overseas, first he went to Camp Rooker, Alabama, because I can remember. And the only thing he remembered about Alabama is it was full of snakes and heat. He hated Alabama. Funny now that our little sister is there. But before he went to Alabama, Grandma, Grandpa, and I went with Lou's parents to visit him at Camp Dodge, which was 10 miles from Des Moines. Grandma had made meatballs and sauce and put them in a jar to take to him, and he was so excited because he was going to share it with the guys, and the meatballs must have spoiled because when he opened the jar, they exploded and shot up to the ceiling. My mother felt badly, so badly, that he didn't get to eat those meatballs.
Well, he was in a medical unit. I think he managed to stay outside of the line of fire, at least most of the time. He was proud of the Bronze Star
Yes.
that he earned in the war. And I'm not sure I know. I think
Do you
my
have
mother
it?
knows that
Do you
story.
have it?
We know that.
No, my
story.
mother has that story. Tell me that story.
I will be glad to. Lou DeMarco told me today what that story is. And he said that your dad earned his Bronze Star shortly after D-Day because the Americans and the British were stuck in northern France near St. Lo, and to break through because the Germans had finally moved up panzer divisions to stop the advance. The Air Force was planned this carpet bombing raid to soften the lines, and then the Army was going to attack. But what happened, because the wind was northbound, the bombers bombed, but then the smoke started to move north, and so the next wave of bombers came and bombed where the smoke was, and they kept moving north, and pretty soon the American bombers were bombing the Americans. And a lot of guys got killed. And your dad and a bunch of medics went into that carpeted area, and during the bombing, they were still being bombed, and despite that risk, he went in and pulled a lot of guys back to the medical units, and they saved a lot of guys' lives, and that's the day he got the Bronze Star.
About 166 were killed in that action. It was 2 waves of bombers went in. First one got about 33, and the next one 131, according to the documentaries.
I remember his first job.
Did he wear his uniform?
Oh yes, we had the star in the window saying that we had a serviceman in the house. And so he was gone all of my high school years.
Did he seem more serious after he got back?
Not really, he was just happy to be home. We were just happy. And Grandma always liked President Roosevelt because he promised he would never send our boys overseas. And when Pearl Harbor happened, and he had to send the boys overseas, Grandma did not like him at all after that. She said Roosevelt double-crossed her, took her son. She never liked him after that, never voted for him. Then Uncle Charlie got a wonderful job because he'd already finished school. And Grandpa was always proud of the fact that he did not go to college on the GI Bill. He said Grandpa used to give him his tuition dollar for dollar. He'd count it out, whether it was $17.50, it was $1 at a time. He'd hand it to him and count it out. $17.50 for tuition that semester at Drake University. So when he got this job at King Pharmacy downtown Des Moines, that he had many boyfriends that were still his schoombas. And the thing that Louie, Johnny, and Clement and I loved was the fact that at night, any donuts and rolls they didn't sell, he'd bring home for us. We had a ball. He divided it among all of the kids, in the neighborhood. They thought he was great. Louis said, those old donuts were the best. He's never had better.
When I was real young, I remember that Charlie worked at King's Pharmacy.
Right.
And he used to bring home rolls, the day-old rolls and stuff like that. And Jesus Christ, you know, that was like candy for us. Day old, 2 days old, a week old, man. So that was really, really great.
King's Pharmacy.
I said
And
that
they
in
used
my
to bring
memoirs.
home the donuts and the rolls and stuff like that. And we all went over to Cherie's house and ate the God, we used to dunk those donuts. It was heaven. It was absolutely wonderful.
Well, those are some of my most vivid recollections of my dad, because that's really where I got to know him the best. He, you know, devoted his life to an extent
Have a great
to his
picture
work.
behind the prescription.
He was he was an excellent teacher on the job. He you know, showed me in the early days everything there was. He was very patient, but I mean, he expected that things would be done right. He had a few little quirks. He wanted the basement lights turned off and collected, I think, quarters, sent him to Father Flanagan at Boys Town if he forgot to turn the lights off.
He made a lot of good ice cream.
He did make a lot of good ice cream.
Charlie, you know, after going through the war, while he came back, he was grown up, as most people are. I remember as a little kid, they used to put up, at Christmas time, they used to put up a manger in the Christmas tree. And that was something I'll never forget. It was just always beautiful.
Inside their house?
Inside the house on 5th Street. Then eventually I ended up working for King's.
Did you?
As a delivery boy, and stocked the shelves and things like that. But all I can say is Charlie, working for Old Man King, had it tough. He was a hard master to work for. He'd get every bit out of you that he could.
And then Uncle Charlie went to work for Bowder Pharmacy on Ingersoll, and the owner, Mrs. Bowder, just loved him. He ended up buying the store from her, and I worked in there too.
Well, he was pretty serious. I guess he had a lot of responsibilities, and he took them pretty seriously. Thing that we did do, he always went to the Drake basketball games.
Loved him.
And that was something that I enjoyed too. So from very early years, every winter, we would go first to the old field house and later to Veterans Memorial Auditorium. And even today, my brother Mark still has some of those tickets, and
Oh, wow.
I think we have some of the most long-standing season tickets of anybody around.
In the later years, your Uncle Chuck enjoyed being with my brother and myself. He just let his hair down and enjoyed having a couple martinis with us, and went out with us a few Tuesday nights, and just really had a good time. Always had a good time with Charlie.
I had more interaction with Charlie. He's a wonderful guy. And around me and my brother-in-law, Bill Sparger and all, he was a very humorous, fun guy. But generally, in public, Charlie was not that outgoing. But if it was a Leo Sarcone or me or, as I say, my brother-in-law, he could be a pretty humorous guy. Great guy.
He also was like your father, your grandfather. He was very proper, very polite.
Very.
He never came, if he came to visit or to Grandma's house, or always brought a little gift or a little present, or very, very, very nice person.
This is dated September 14th, 1996. Dear Craig and Diane, that's my ex-wife. We're very sorry about the death of your father. We met him when he stopped by your house after dinner several years ago. We remember him as a friendly man with a warm smile and good sense of humor. You will surely miss him, and we sympathize with your loss. Your father spent many years building both a family and a successful business, and he's left a large legacy in the Des Moines community. But beyond that larger legacy, we will remember your father as the man who provided the best chocolate, peach, and strawberry ice creams in the known universe. That is a wonderful contribution to human happiness, and we will always remember and appreciate it. With sympathy, Cynthia and Roger.
That's a nice letter.
I thought so.
Oh, that's just so nice.
Take the time to write like that.
Yeah, I thought so.
So, Mom, tell me about your mom. What was she like?
Oh, a very gentle woman, sweet. Went to Mass every morning. Spent her life taking care of her family. And
How was her English?
broken, but she studied.
Did you
And,
guys
I
speak
helped
Italian
her.
at home? Or
We spoke Italian at home, and she was interested in everything I did at school, and anytime I could help her, I did. She found the language kind of hard.
So you didn't really... So up until you moved out of the house, you guys spoke Italian
We
at home?
always spoke Italian at home.
The most wonderful lady in the world. Absolute angel. She truly was. And your granddad was too. He was a wonderful guy. The only thing that was bad was he was kind of macho, the old Italian way, and then sometimes talked real nice to Grandma. But to us kids, he was wonderful. Truly wonderful. I just absolutely loved your grandmother, Cherie's mom. Absolutely loved her. Nobody disliked that lady. Nobody.
And she was a great cook.
Oh, she was great everything. And she could, when she'd see us, her face would just light up. That, you know, it was a great experience for the Grazianos. Your uncle, Charlie, like I said, was a favorite. Your mom and dad were.
What's the first thing you remember doing with your mom? What was...
We'd go shopping together.
Like
Of course,
for
we
food
always
or-
went to Mass together. No, we didn't shop for food. In those days, you went to the store and bought a couple of items each day because there were no refrigerators. We had an ice box, and I'd go to the ice house and get ice. I'd get a block of ice, bring it home in my little wagon.
So what did your mom cook for you?
She cooked. She was a fantastic cook. DeMarcos and Scorpionetti's loved to come to our house.
What
My
was her
mother's-
sauce grid?
My mother's, everything was good. Everything she made from scratch, and everything was done with a lot of love. And it was done carefully. No sloppy cooking there.
Did she make those
She
hens
made
at
gnocchi,
Easter?
made
The
the
Easter
little
hens?
hens. Mhm.
The egg in them?
The little egg in it, the Easter bread, yeah. And then cavatelli, the gnocchi, those were Uncle Charlie's favorites.
Did she teach you how to make gnocchi?
Yes, I remember how to make them.
Oh, yeah, she used to cook good and everything. Yeah, she used to make a lot of nice things.
Like
yes.
what? What type of food? What did she cook?
She cook anything. She make pasta, we make a lot of homemade noodles, a lot of things like that, gavatelli, all kind of things. She make all those things. We used to make all this.
Did she make use tomato sauce or white sauce?
Yeah,
Cream.
we make all kind of sauce. Sometimes, no, we can. A lot of tomatoes, a lot of peppers, everything. She don't know that.
Well, what?
The most
Didn't she
fun,
make chicharrata?
She made chicharrata all the time, all the good things. that-
Brajol?
Brajol.
With thread?
Oh yeah, wrapped it with thread. Made all of her own pasta. Actually, we had Graziano brothers in town, and Grandpa would get a big order every month, and they would deliver. We thought that was great. That was when we'd cut up the pepperoni and have it as an hors d'oeuvre with provolone cheese.
Did
We
you-
used to buy the spaghetti in the long boxes in 50 pounds. It lasted all month.
Yeah, you make chicharata, but we don't make them like like your mother make it.
How do you make it?
We make them same thing, honey, but we make them real fine that time. Got them real tight. And after you put them in a thing all together and make the honey cook the honey real good, then put some sugar and everything. That one you put them all in top, honey, and some little nuts, like you put the cakes and things. And after the one going like that, the one they get real cold, you can cut them little pieces, little small pieces. You can pick them real nice,
Do you remember cooking with your mom?
Yes, I remember helping her a lot in cooking.
How old were you?
10, any time after that. Used to help her make ravioli.
Did she said she had kind of a hard time with your dad sometimes.
Well, she was very gentle, and he was very macho. In those days, it was macho to be macho. But that didn't bother her too much. Roles were defined in those days, I think. She was mainly concerned about church and her family.
Her mother was a saint. I mean, her mother is in heaven, and she's never been canonized, but she could be. She just was a saint. There's no other way to put it.
Wonderful woman.
The most fun was with the other two families, because all of our holidays were spent with them.
So your memories of living on 5th Street and your mom are maybe from the mid-30s to the mid to late 40s.
That's right.
And she used to help feed the nuns, is that right?
We used to, when she'd make spaghetti and meatballs, I would always have to take the first dish of meatballs and spaghetti up to the nun's house. Always the first dish. I could never take the leftovers. It was interesting. They loved it.
That's how your
It was
mom
only
was.
it was only a block and a half. It was close. Also, our school, our Catholic grade school, St. Ambrose, was directly across the street from Mercy Hospital, where I was born. So every time we'd come out of school, the nuns would say, "Remember, all those sick people are looking out of the window, so march down to the corner in single file and don't talk." And boy, we did. We'd look to see if they were looking out of the windows.
Your Uncle Lou always used to say what a great lady your mom.
She was great. My godmother was just absolutely fantastic. We never felt unwelcome there. As we were growing up, I remember we used to have a pig that we would carry home on the side of the car and butcher, and that was really something. After butchering a hog, and then that night they would cook up fresh meat.
She thought this country was great. She said, all of God's bounty was in America. Why would anybody go back? Well, she couldn't help me with homework, but she was very interested in my homework and what I was doing. And she would go to the high school with me. It was a girls' high school. Mm-hmm. Anytime they had a Parents' Day or a Mother-Daughter Day, she'd go. She's the one that pushed me to go to college because when I graduated from high school, I wanted to work at the telephone company, and she said, "That is so stupid." She said, "If you don't go to college, you're going to end up in the kitchen like me." So I did. She was very proud of me going to college.
So when she got sick, was it just very quick?
Yes, in fact it was. I was starting my senior year of college. We moved to the suburbs when I was a sophomore, so she actually only lived in that house about a year and a half. Beautiful house. She liked the house because church was right across the street. She walked to church every morning with all the people on the street. Mm-hmm. She thought that was the greatest. College was beginning 20th. And I remember Uncle Charlie.
What year did she die?
1950. And I remember Uncle Charlie saying, "If Mama dies, I want you to finish your last year of college, and I will pay for it." Uncle Charlie and I took her to Mail Brothers Clinic in Rochester, and they simply opened her up, closed her up, and sent her back because she was too far gone.
How long did she live after that?
3 months.
And she died at home.
She died in the hospital.
Oh, so she stayed at home for most of the time?
Yes, and then we took her to the hospital. Actually, she had a DO lady take care of her. First time I'd heard of a DO. She was very nice to my mother.
What do you think your mom taught you?
How to be kind to people and
So, okay, so your dad came to Des Moines in 1926, and he was in a tailoring shop with who?
right downtown on Grand Avenue, across from the Paramount Theater, with Gus Manolis, a tough Greek. They were partners. Never anything in writing, just word of mouth, which proved to be a detriment later, after 40 years, because nothing was in writing.
But was Gus a tailor?
Yes.
So what
and Grandpa was his main man.
So what did they do? They made
tailor-made clothes for men and women, coats, suits.
Women's clothes. So
Yes. Grandpa brought a lot of work home and had a little area upstairs where he worked with his pedal Singer sewing machine. Sorry, I didn't keep it.
So did he? And he made all your clothes for
Yes.
your kid, for you and Chaz.
Coats, suits. Sometimes when he'd walk to town, he'd meet Zitz coming back, because she'd always take Lou's dad lunch, and so she'd say, "How are you, Kumba?" And he'd say, "How are you, Kumba?" And they'd greet each other, and then they'd go on their way. It was 6 blocks to town, and walking it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The cathedral was down there too, and that's where we went.
Wow. But when he did have time off, his big passion.
His big love was his garden. Flowers in the front, peonies in the front, and tomatoes and peppers and zucchini, veggies in the back. Loved his garden.
So did you help him?
No, I didn't care for a garden. Neither did Grandma.
Did Chaz help him?
No. That was his love. Was his passion.
And he made all his hot peppers?
Yes. Grandma did a lot of canning.
So that's why I like hot food.
Maybe. That could be.
He likes hot peppers. So your dad was a pretty tough old dude.
Well, in this day and age, it would be considered pretty sexist. But in those days, it didn't really matter. Grandma didn't mind. She had other things to worry about. If he ever wanted to start an argument, she'd go in the next room and get her rosary out. That used to irritate him. It was a good way to avoid a confrontation.
Her dad wasn't even trying to be a saint. He's sure nice to me.
But your dad was good to you.
Very good to us kids.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was invited over to Cherie's folks' house. They're on 42nd Street, 43rd Street.
I think we were just dating then, too, weren't we?
And
You went over.
her dad treated me as though I were an adult, although I was not quite. And he invited me out into the kitchen. And in the kitchen, he had a plate of cheese and some crackers. And he invited me to join with him, and he had a mischievous look on his face, And out of the cheese would crawl worms. And he'd whap them with a spoon, And he said, you want some? And I say, no, I really don't want any of that cheese. Remember that, Cherie?
Wonderful man. I just loved him. I don't think he ever spoke a bad word to me ever as I was growing up. He really cared for us a lot, as your grandma did.
He was a very gracious host. He welcomed everybody. Very neat looking, very neat and
distinguished looking. I think he always wore a vest, as I remember.
Do you remember those big scissors?
Oh yeah, I was the one that talked to your mother. Your mother was going to get rid of them. I said, gee, you got to keep those. Now she's got them framed.
Oh, I remember him very well. I was about 15, and we would go over there about every Sunday. He was a little on the gruff side.
He was a gruff guy.
I thought.
He was gruff.
As a youngster, I would have all these, toys that I was quite fascinated with, and he wasn't too impressed with them. Called him junk.
Right. That sounded like Papa.
What was his garden like?
His garden was fabulous. I don't remember what he grew there, but it was huge, and he spent a lot of time out there. It was
veggies or flowers?
Flowers in the front, vegetables in the back.
He had a lot of vegetables.
Yeah, there were flowers in the front yard.
Peonies. Loved
Peonies, and he had irises and other things as well, as I recall.
Now, he died of bronchitis, right?
He had emphysema.
Emphysema. That's a tough way to die.
That's a very bad way to die because it's like a man drowning.
But he smoked a pipe.
No, he smoked cigars.
Smoked cigars.
King Edward cigars. Loved them. Actually didn't smoke them, chewed them.
Is that what gave him
Who knows?
emphysema?
Who knows?
So how old was he when he died?
76.
And
He
then
outlived Grandma by 16 years.
And then when he died, your stepmom moved in with us in Columbus.
Well,
briefly.
When he died, yes, he had been married to her 14 years. He did wait exactly 2 years after my mother died. Then went back to Italy. We got a surprise telegram one day saying he was married. We about dropped our teeth. And he brought her back. They came on the train. All of our friends were there to greet them. And she was good because I had just gotten married and left Des Moines. So she was a good companion for 14 years. He babied her, not like with my mother. He was more gentle with this one.
So your dad saw Johnny, me, Chucky,
and Marianne.
He saw Marianne.
Marianne was 1 when he died.
Okay.
I was still living on Reitmeyer. And then when Marianne was 1, we moved to Patricia Drive.
Right.